Countdown to kickoff continues. The Jaguars and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming up Christmas Eve, Week 16, battle of first place teams. Well, they're tied for first place in the respective divisions. And it's time for our weekly conversation with pride of the Jaguars running back Fred Taylor. Playoff football in December doesn't get much tighter than this. I mean, three-way tie for first in the AFC South, two-way tie in the NFC South, and they're playing each other this week, Fred.
JP, you said it, man. Playoff football in December. Before that goes over a lot of people's head, all that means is you got to win every game. You cannot lose under any circumstances. There has to be an extreme sense of urgency in these games as the season is winding down. Now, the mindset is we can't lose. But unlike the playoffs, if you happen to lose, you have 2 more weeks for other things to kind of sort itself out. But again, if you don't lose, you control your own destiny. That's just the most simplest way, even if that's the most simplest. Most, you can't use most with EST. So that's the simplest way I can put it. Just don't lose. And we can solve all those problems. Even the grammar, the inappropriate grammatical or the grammatical errors. Yeah, that.
That's what they taught you at Florida, I suppose, Fred. Huh?
Well, you know what? When they were teaching or when we were in class, of course.
Fred Taylor with us. All right, so the number one storyline this week is Trevor Lawrence and his status. And, we won't find out until later in the week what his deal is. It's a concussion protocol. He's got to go through 5 different steps to get back. And, it has happened. Brock Purdy, I think earlier this year, had a concussion on a Sunday and then played the next Sunday. It doesn't happen often, though. It's possible with Trevor. It's a different feel, though, obviously, if he's not out there and C.J. Beathard is in. You've got to pare down some things, and the skill set's much different. So how much different would this be if for the first time ever Trevor Lawrence isn't playing on Sunday?
JP, first of all, the concussion protocol is an amazing measure that they use. And I think that if they had used it more in my day, a lot of guys would be better off now in their in their post careers. And I say that respectfully to what the NFL is trying to achieve, by implementing that measure. So we all hope that whatever it is, even if Trevor makes it out of the concussion protocol, that he's fine, and that he's able to go, and that he's able to, with full clarity, go out there and focus as well as he's ever focused and understand the game and his job. With that being said, I think C.J. Beathard, we're back to the Cleveland game, but Trevor, he's a guy who surprised us all. We thought his leg was going to be off of his body frame, the way he went down and the way the media made it sound throughout the week. But like Trevor does, he bounced back even before the Saints game as well. He came back in those 2 returns. He kind of outrushed everybody on the team, which is another conversation in itself. But yeah, much like that preparation that week, Doug said we're going to try to create some stuff around CJ to give him an opportunity to go out there and be successful. And I think they're in the same position this week. CJ has to step up. He's getting more reps this week, more than he would get if Trevor was 100% going to be out there. So CJ is having a few days to get more reps at practice, more film study, more time with the receivers away from the practice, those periods that they practice. So, from a preparation standpoint, he's going to get an overload. So he has to be ready there. Now it's time to get into game situation and handle that pressure that comes with it. The pressure from Tampa's defense, which is going to be lights out. The pressure of knowing you have to lead your offense. That's a whole different type of pressure. So this week in preparation, it's there. Now he has to make sure that translates to game day so he can try to get a win.
Fred Taylor with us. In the passing game, no matter who's throwing the football, there's some changes there too in the wide receiver room. Christian Kirk still down. Zay Jones came out of the game with a hamstring injury, and that didn't trend the right way this week. So Guess what, Calvin Ridley? This is the time to step up and play, right?
Yeah, that's why they bring you in. That's why they designate you a true number one, which he is. We all seen it. He is. I like to see more consistency out of Calvin. There are moments where you're like, wow, this guy's so dynamic. He is a true number one of the top guys in the league. And then there are other moments when you're like, okay, what's going on with Calvin. But that's part of the game. I think he's the best receiver, in my opinion, that we've had since maybe Jimmy Smith, like pure natural receiver. And that's just my opinion. So our expectations as fans are a bit higher, and we put a bit more weight on his shoulders for him to carry. So when he's not out there making those spectacular, one-handed or toe tap catches, we're like, what's going on with Calvin? So he has a lot on his plate again. You got to step up to the plate, man. Be ready to go for a swing for the fences, and hopefully, whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Trevor or CJ, they're able to create some opportunities for him, which I'm sure he wants to create for himself.
Fred Taylor with us. All right, you said it's another conversation, but let's get to that running game conversation.
That's one I did not want to have, but you can't run from it. You're supposed to run to it. And I'll let you pose your question, or I can just keep on dabbling because the running game is non-existent. Much like your question right now, JP, it's non-existent because I won't let you ask it. But I will tell you that the running game is suffering. It's a combination of things. You have an offensive line that's been shuffled. You have situations where there's certainly relying heavily on Trevor's arm. I mean, you brought him in number one pick, obviously. Excuse me, you brought him in number one pick. Obviously, you're thinking he can bring a bit more to the game for you, and you tend to forget about the run, even when the defense is playing lights out. But when the defense isn't playing great and the offense isn't running the ball great, it spells disaster. There's no patience for the play caller. He wants to get the ball down the field. They find themselves behind these last few weeks. Then they have to go away from the run. And that hurts them. So I think if you try and commit to the run, take advantage of the short pass game, check down. I don't remember the last time I saw running backs have more than 10 receptions or 10 targets in a game. I mean, the checkdowns are there. If the teams are going to drop zone coverage, that means the checkdowns are open. I've seen a few instances even last week where I'm like, Trevor, that's your read right there. The coverage takes you here. Why go here? So he's not perfect. He's not perfect. The run game, the guys up front aren't perfect, but you have to give those plays an opportunity to develop. If I were Travis Etienne, I'll go up to the play caller and I'm like, look, be patient. Give me an opportunity. Sometimes you have to go back there and convince them to that you are capable, and he's capable. We've seen it last year. He had some breakout games, and I think he's due for one here any minute.
I don't even have to ask a question. All I got to do is say run game.
Run game.
Just go. That's great.
Yeah, it's one of those clueless. You don't need, it's. I don't want to say it's awful, but it's not good.
It's weighing heavy. It's weighing heavy on your mind, Fred. I can tell.
Yes, it's not good. I've been in those situations where I'm like, man, we cannot run the ball. And we didn't have a lot because that's what we did. We forced the issue, and we had a defense that was stout, and we were able to run the ball. That's how we were built. This team is not built like we were built. They have more receivers than myself and Maurice had the luxury of having. And not knocking the guys that we had, these guys are just better, in my opinion. And the quarterback, he's a natural, pure passer. He's a generational talent. So they're going to lean heavy on him, as opposed to what we had where they leaned on myself, on Maurice, and the legs of David Garrard, which was a nightmare for a lot of teams.
Fred Taylor with us. On the other side, Jaguars defense has their hands full this week. Baker Mayfield's playing better. He had a perfect passer rating last week, one of 3 quarterbacks to have that in this 2023 season. But Godwin's playing better at wide receiver. And then, of course, Mike Evans is in his 10th year. He's got over 1,000 yards receiving in every season of his career. And every time you look up on TV, he's like scoring a touchdown, like every highlight show you watch. So how do you cover Mike Evans?
You don't. You can't. You just have to deal with what comes of it. He's the most consistent player in the entire NFL over the last decade. I don't care what anyone says. You talk about just a consummate pro. He comes to work. This offseason, a little disgruntled because of the contract talks, but they're well-deserved. He just puts his head down and he goes to work. And that's what you love from him. He's one of those old school blue collar guys, man. He gets it. It's hard to cover. Big, tall, strong, fast. Even in 10 years in, you just try to minimize it. He's going to get his. You just try to minimize it. You said Baker Mayfield is playing well. He's his outlet. Baker has 2 really good receivers. He has one that he can hit underneath and let him run after the catch with Godwin is amazing. Or he can throw it deep to Godwin and he can get it deep to Big Mike. So the secondary is going to have their hands full. I think this will be the best 2 receivers that they've faced in several weeks. As a combination, they're the best that they've probably faced all year.
So we got that going for us, which is nice. Fred, have a Merry Christmas, you and the family. And hey, here we go. It's Christmas Eve football, Jaguars, Buccaneers, and we'll talk to you a little bit later.
Look, whatever happens today, JP, all I know is the food tastes better when you win. This is for the players. If they got their little Walkman, they don't even exist no more. But they got something that they can listen to the pregame show. So if you're listening, you get a win. The food tastes better. The eggnog, you can go a little heavier on the eggnog, whatever you're spiking it with, and you be able to chill out for a couple days. Not have to worry about the playoffs.
You just dropped a Walkman on them. I mean, like what? Your cassette tapes? You gonna play cassettes too?
Listen, if they are listening, I can guarantee you there are probably 80% of the locker room doesn't have a clue what a Walkman is.
I tell you what, though, I miss mine every single day. That was a great invention.
Man, it was an amazing product. Yeah, indeed. The Walkman.
Unbelievable.
And I'm not talking about an MP3, JP. I'm talking about the original Walkman with the tape and you roll it out. That you get upset when the cassette gets stuck in there sometime.
You got to flip it around.
Yeah, those were the days. Side A, side B. Like how you get a side A and B when it's technology is amazing. That's it. That's it.
This is a guy I'm talking to right now that has the earbud in his ear. I mean, that's how it's changed.
I got the earbud in my ear, but I'm talking to you through speaker. That's kind of
on the internet. Imagine that. Like you can talk on computers.
That in itself, if someone had said that 30 years ago, you'd be like, oh, that's the Jetsons. That ain't happening. Like, but look, here we are. We're able to talk through the computer. Like, imagine if you had known about what level, how the progression of the internet would have been back when this guy by the name of Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs and these guys came around when those companies were like $2 a share. You'd be like, man, I'm gonna go out here and hustle up some money and buy me some Apple stock. I ain't trying to buy no Nikes, or no cleats. I'm buying cleats anyway, JP. I had to go there.
Figured you were. Fred, it's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you.
Boss. I'll see you in a minute.